These are the various nutrients that I'm going to be covering in a whole plant-based food. So when we hear of vitamin B12, the first thing that we remember is somebody commenting that it is deficient in vegetarian diet, vegan diet. So let's find out if that is true. So the most important thing is that vitamin B12 is produced by bacteria and it is not produced by plants or animals. So the source of this bacteria is actually manure and unsanitized water. But unfortunately, in today's world, because of chronic pesticide use on vegetables in the soil, antibiotic overuse, more so in the animal industry, we do have a deficiency of this bacteria in our gut. So the deficiency of vitamin B12 exists no matter what diet you might follow. So vitamin B12 is required basically for cell division. An entire body, irrespective of which organ it is composed of cells. So you can imagine, right from brain to blood to the nervous system to immune system that helps us fight infection is dependent on vitamin B12. Now, vitamin B12 is a water-soluble vitamin. Luckily, we need very small amounts of vitamin B12 to sustain. So the recommendation for daily need is 2.4 to 7 microgram depending on various studies. Now, even though it is water soluble, our liver has learned to store it to some extent. So now all the foods that we are seeing in the market, like a lot of cornflakes, muesli, in fact, even meat is fortified with vitamin B12. So if you're having supplements which are actually cheaper than fortified food, you can have 250 micrograms once a day or 2500 weekly. So there are various options whenever you're having supplements. Try to make sure it's of a vegan source. Now, vitamin E, the most important function is that it offers protection against free radicals, immunity as well as cellular function. While we require around 15 milligram per day, the sources in plant-based food are plenty, such as green leafy vegetables, seeds, avocados, almonds, coconut oil, etc. Omega-3 fatty acids. When you hear this, what comes to mind? Fish and fish oil capsules, right? And we often ignore the much cheaper and the much safer option for omega-3 fatty acids, such as walnut, flax seeds, chia seeds. Now, omega-3 is important for neuronal function, cellular function, and studies have shown that with age, our brain tends to shrink in volume. Now, omega-3 will reduce that shrinkage and also prevent the onset or even altogether prevent dementia. So we require approximately 250 to 500 milligrams, which can be obtained easily through plant-based food or through supplements which would be avoided. And the reason being, your doctor might have given you fish oil capsules, right? Should you have it or not? It's no longer recommended because of cardiac risk. Now, unfortunately, in the age of industrialization, we keep throwing all our effluents in the sea, and the fish keep collecting all these effluents. So increased cardiac risk could be because of mercury toxicity in the fish. PCB, dioxin, chlorine are various pollutants that are commonly found in seafood, and they often cause prostate cancer, diabetes type 2, and even stroke. Now, calcium, we just know that it is helpful for bone and muscle contraction, but it also functions in blood clotting, in proper cardiac function, as well as neural impulse in our brain. Now, the recommended dose varies individually, approximately 1000 milligram. Now, somebody had asked whether we get calcium in plant sources. So these are all the sources. You find that in legumes, you find that in soya, you find that in various seeds, in plant milk, in green leafy vegetables and seeds. So the most important point here to remember is that the calcium absorption of plant-based food is actually higher than cow's milk. And this is a point that Dr. Rupa Shah would be going further in detail in her talk. The sunshine vitamin. In our current world, none of us get adequate sunshine exposure, right? Now, why is vitamin D important? It is so that you can absorb the calcium in the body and use the calcium in order to form bones. So it's important that you check your levels periodically, and if your levels are inadequate, your physician will recommend the right source of supplement for you and the frequency of the same. Vitamin C is a vitamin found exclusively in plants, important for growth, development, repair of all the body tissues. It's involved in numerous functions of the body, and because of which immune system remains healthy, your skin remains healthy, bone, cartilage, teeth, all of it. Vitamin C is also important for hormonal regulation, epigenetic regulation, gene transcription, among other factors. Now, vitamin C has a very rich source, and being a water-soluble vitamin, it does not have any proven toxicity, so you can consume as much vitamin C as you want. Iron. Iron is associated with Popeye since very long, and the reason why Popeye has spinach is because it is rich in iron, just as Dr. Madhura has mentioned. So in India, we particularly need to be concerned about this because most of the Indian women in menstrual age group are deficient in iron. So iron is required not just for red blood cells, but also for white blood cells, for your muscle function and neuronal function as well. So there are plenty of sources of iron. You don't need to suck dry a marrow of an animal to get iron. So you have beans, seeds, dark leafy vegetables, all have iron which can be in an easily absorbable form without causing undue inflammation. Now fiber, you might be wondering why are all the vegans on this forum screaming about fiber? And the reason is fiber has extremely important role in that. And the only source for fiber is plant. You won't find that in any other animal food. So in the absence of fiber, you'll have constipation, poor intestinal health. Fiber has a very important function of preventing cancer by quickly removing off the waste products in the intestine before the bacteria could act on it to produce harmful carcinogens. So it prevents breast cancer, prostate, and colorectal cancer. So the recommended is 31 grams per day. So the larger volume of stool that you have, the quicker all the toxic metabolites in your intestine are washed away. So fiber is found in whole grains foods and lot of vegetables as well. Microbiome is basically the gut bacteria. So within your intestine, you have good and bad bacteria. The good bacteria are lactobacilli, E. coli. The bad ones are Clostridium difficile, Campylobacter. Now, good versus bad bacteria. What does it affect? So the bacteria is important for adequate digestion, for training the immune system. The good bacteria should be there in sufficient number to prevent the bad bacteria overgrowth, for proper gut movement, production of vitamins such as biotin, vitamin K, adequate breakdown of food, help absorption of other nutrients, for removal of heavy elements, parasite control, and anti-cancer. So now when you consume animal proteins, there is a certain metabolic reaction by the bad bacteria that happens in the intestine, and it converts in the liver into something called TMAO. Now, TMAO is responsible for atherosclerosis or cholesterol deposition around the arteries. This can lead to heart attacks, stroke, and a lot of other problems like angina. So now, TMAO is made by bacterial action on red meat. That is, they are meat-eating microbes. Now, those who consume a lot of egg and meat tend to have more of TMAO. So the higher the TMAO, higher the chances of complications and diseases. So vegans, because they do not have animal protein, do not have much of this bad bacteria, and hence that could be attributed to their health. So this is important for you to consume a lot of plant-based food so that the good bacteria win. Now, zinc has numerous functions all around the body. There is hardly any tissue that does not require zinc. 8 to 11 milligrams is what is recommended, and pretty much most of the plant-based food are adequate in zinc. Potassium, again, is important, and bananas are one of the richest sources of potassium, so definitely highly recommended after heavy exercise, etc. So now, while we were speaking of all these as individual, like the brain requires this, the bone requires this, a human body doesn't function like that, right? A human body is a symbiotic single organ wherein these various organs are functioning in sync. So similarly in food, like Madhura had mentioned, nutrients have a symbiotic relationship. So vitamin C helps in the absorption of iron. Similarly, vitamin D and calcium work together in formation of bone. So when you have a proper balanced diet, that is when you get all nutrients and it's better absorbed. Did you know that patients of rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis have shown significant pain relief with plant-based food? It's not just that. There's a whole list of problems that can be cured with plant-based food. And this is not me just narrating something off my head. There are enough peer-reviewed journals published by very reputed scientists. Some of the references are mentioned here. There are some nutrients that are exclusively plant-based. So basically all animal nutrient is just recycled plant nutrient with added cholesterol, toxins, and carcinogen. So I often tell my patients this, that if I want to build a house for myself, I'll buy a plot of land, I'll buy brick and cement and build a house from scratch. So that is plant food nutrition. So if you want nutrition, proteins, everything from animal-based food, it is equivalent of buying a plot of land and also buying the neighborhood house. And you break the neighbor's house, pick up those bricks, windows, and doors, and use that to build your house. Which one would you prefer? Thank you so much.